Hi guys, in this video I'll be sharing a few things that I will be using with my 10th grader this year. And just saying 10th grader, you know, is kind of crazy that we are here already. God spare 3 more years and we would have one of our kids graduating from school. But anyway, so it's not a lot of things. So for science and math, we are going to be going with Dive Educadium website again with Dr. Shulman. For math, this year she's doing their Algebra 2 with integrated geometry. And for science, she is doing their biology. All right. Now, last year, I had a little bit of concern when we switched from math. You see that she used all throughout her elementary and middle school years. Was concerned if the transition would have been rough. It worked out really well. She did excellent in their program. So happy with that. And of course, I'm glad that I don't have to correct and it grades it. You do need to make sure, of course, it lasts for, well, the algebra with integrated geometry lasts for a year and a half because it's meant to be a 3-semester course. And if they're able to finish it in 2 semesters, and following the other steps, then it can be considered an honors. But she is taking most of the 3 semesters to do it. So she's actually, you know, almost finished with the first one. So she's not going to start this one really until the 15th or so, not the 15th. Like we're getting it started online on the 15th, but she's not going to start until about the 25th or the 28th, somewhere around there. All right. So anyway, so that's algebra. And then for the biology, she is actually, I would not have put that burden on her, but she's considering doing it as an honors course. So there is that. And as I said, they do give you guidelines on how to, you know, what to follow or how to follow it to get a standard credit, high school credit, as opposed to an honors credit. All right. So the language arts block, we have spelling, writing, grammar, literature. So for spelling, she's using the Wordly Wise. Now, just to be transparent with this, I do like this program, especially now for my now 7th and 5th graders, right? And I shared that in my last update video. For her, we really liked it up until now. She did share with me, though, that at this stage, she finds that she retains words better where she did, like, say she discovered it in a novel, or if she is doing research about a topic that she's interested in, she finds that those words stick with her. And not that none of this sticks, but only a few words that, you know, probably for some reason stood out, or she probably met it before. So it's kind of like a reminder and it sticks that way. I say that to say that I'm not 100% sure if we're going to continue with this, because at this like for 11th and 12th grade, God spare, because at this stage, I don't really want to give her anything to do that I don't think that she, just to be doing sake, not at this high school level stage. So I'll have to figure out how to work the language arts block, if it's something that I absolutely need or not. All right. So I just wanted to be transparent with that. But we do really like the Wordly Wise. All right. And she does well with it. All right. So I have the answer key, the test booklet, and the student workbook. All right. Now for writing, she is using Sharon Watson's Writing Fiction in High School. Now, this is a Christian-based curriculum, but she has been looking forward to doing this since the end of 7th grade. We discovered it when she was working on a novel. She's still working. Right? But she wanted to finish the heavier part first, which was the nonfiction writing last year. She did well. I'm not saying that she enjoyed it, but she did well with it. And it was pretty heavy. And I spoke about that in my update video, where at a certain point we had to, decide if a percentage of the essays to complete, because it's very, very heavy on the essay writing. And of course she had a research paper in there. All right. Okay. So looking forward to this. This one doesn't have as much essay writing projects like last year. But anyway, so we have the student book and the teacher's guide. All right. So there's that. For grammar, she's just going to be completing the Fix It grammar. She used this entire series. We like the Fix It grammar. Yeah. right? So this is the Little Mermaid, level 6, and then she'll be finished, sorry, with grammar. And then for literature, I am going with a program that they use in the public schools, right? I'm using Holt Literature, all right? I actually used one from them when she was in the 7th grade. We actually did enjoy it. Now, this does look intimidating, but this is actually the supplement, right? And this is the text. So this is what she will actually be completing. Now, in this book, and I'll show it in B-roll, when they get to the specific unit, it actually tells them what pages they need to turn to read through to be able to complete the unit. Now, inside of the actual unit, they have most of the information that they need to finish that particular unit. Now, it's more condensed in the student book because they are thinking that they would have been exposed to it in the 9th grade and prior. So some topics are less detailed unless it's new in this book. But if it is they are still struggling with those specific topics, they can turn to this book and go over that information. All right. So as intimidating as this look, and I have to say both my daughter and I, when I first got this, we looked at each other and I'm like, okay, I think I made it. This was a while ago. But this is the supplement. All right. And when God spare, when I come back and give an update, I'll, share how this whole thing worked out. I was considering going with just some literature text that I had picked out for her, but I decided that we're going to do that, God spare, in the 11th grade, if that time comes around. All right, so that is her language block. All right, and then for Spanish, this year, we are not using the Spanish now. It worked out fine. We didn't really use the online portion. She tried it and it wasn't really working out. So she did Spanish now. She completed 80% of the text. I shared that in my update book and she used it alongside Duolingo, even though it doesn't go together. To test her, to see how she was doing with the Spanish, I shared in that video as well that I did have her tested, so to speak, on 2 language learning websites, and on both websites she actually tested as pre-intermediate. So I'm pretty comfortable with where she's at. And this book, once she started going through it a little bit, she's like, a lot of it she's actually familiar with, right? So again, she'll be using this text with Duolingo. All right. And my goal for her is just to get an exposure to the language, and if it's something that she's really interested, she could take it further later on. But I'm really happy with where she's at. For my younger girls, we're probably going to start some physical, workbook a little bit earlier. All right. So for history was a little bit tough. Now, initially, I wanted her to do half geography, half economics this year. But mind you, I wanted to, kind of get history done, one after the other. All right. So we're doing U.S. history this year. I did Nutgrass last year with her, and I really did enjoy doing Nutgrass. For her, especially as a Christian, I wanted her to get that ancient history from a biblical perspective, right? It worked out really well. However, for U.S. history, it was just tough. It was tough trying to find a curriculum that would fit for us. All right, so in the end, I decided to go with the Critical Thinking Company U.S. History 1 and 2. Now, this does, they can't do this in the 8th grade, but it does say 8th to 12th grade. And the fact that it does say that it aligns with AP courses, with AP history, I'm okay with it. And as my daughter and I was discussing, the fact is, U.S. history, it's not that you learn something, that the history changes, so to speak. You're just going over the history that you did if you did it in, she did it in, I think it's 7th grade. Can't remember. No, 8th grade, right? And prior, and you're just building on that. So we'll make this work. We're going to make this work for her high school history. I couldn't do, as much as I liked their world history, I couldn't do the US history. All right, so for her electives, the goal is to, well, we're going to finish her second year for physical education. She did a half year for computer studies last year. So we're going to do another 60, hours for computer studies this year. Entrepreneurship and finance. Now she has been, looking at, starting a little business. I did get her some books to kind of help her with that because she is a reader. And that will be for 1 credit. So this one she's actually been reading already. This is Personal Finance for Teens. Running a Micro Business. It's a series. So we have Running a Micro Business, Starting a Micro Business, Money and Taxes in a Micro Business, and Micro Business for Teens workbook. Now, for this year, for the credit for entrepreneurship and finance, the goal is more so from a research perspective. She is considering possibly starting her own YouTube channel. So she's and she has been working on, writing scripts and stuff for that. And when she gets God's Spear into the 11th grade and she is doing, economics, and because of the book that I already planned for her to use for that, she's probably going to be doing another credit for entrepreneurship and finance, or I'll probably find a different way to word it when she gets into the 11th grade. All right. Hopefully all of that makes sense. So she'll be doing that for a credit. She did half a credit for visual arts last year, and that is, she's been learning Da Vinci, and she has been drawing for quite a few years, but she did a drawing course last year. So she got a half credit for that. And then I'm going to be giving a half credit for home economics. So sewing, and home management, right? Cooking and stuff like that. The sewing portion, there is a book that I bought for her to follow along with, and so that she's not kept back by me. If it works out where she actually uses it when I give an update, I will share that. Now, I forgot to mention for the literature that is the subject that I will be doing with her this year. She mentioned that she would like to still do at least 1 subject with me. And that is nice to know that, even though she's in high school, she doesn't want to, just fly off as yet. So we will be doing a lot of the reading portion together, like the stories, right? I did tell her though that if we find that I'm keeping her back in any way, then she will just, go off on her own, unless of course she needs me to be involved, right? We were able to do history last year, but this year we will be doing a little bit of literature together, right? And then, lastly, not really curriculum, but then we have, I've been using planners, having them trying to get used to using a planner and planning their school day/day for a couple of years now. Now this year, I don't know what got into me, and I switched from the actual planner that I used the last 2 years. Why, I don't know. And they all said that they actually preferred the other one. So if I'm linking the plan, I'm actually going to link the one that I used last year. But we're going to make this work since I paid for it already. All right. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. And I hope you have a successful homeschool year. And I will talk to you in another video. Bye.